Hello and welcome to this week's TGi Friday. I'm Tim Danaher, editor of Retail Week, and I'm joined as ever by George MacDonald, deputy editor of the magazine, to talk over the week's events. And aside from all our Olympic gold medals, there hasn't been very much good news around this week, and certainly not in the world of retail. Well, it's quite a quiet time of year for announcements, George. The big theme this week has been around job cuts and where the axe might be falling on retail staff.
Yeah, it has. The past week or so we've heard about job losses at TGi, at Homebase, and of course at the moment the big speculation is about M&S because they're changing their redundancy protocols, and of course that has really sparked a lot of speculation that there are big job cuts on the way there.
And it's really interesting, isn't it? Because over the last couple of years we've heard a lot about retailers talking about being more efficient and cutting jobs at head office, and the line is always we're putting people back on the shop floor, investing in customer service. Now, whether this is a sign that things really are hard, I'm actually seeing the shop floor being hit, and that's quite a departure from what we've had over the last couple of years or so.
Yeah, I think it's bad news because you hear retailers talking all the time about how important the in-store experience is, how important service is, but it shows that they're really having to cut to the quick. And the big question is, will they get any benefit from that? Or can it potentially undermine store performance?
Yeah.
You think about what retailers are always talking about, service levels, etc., and those are potentially jeopardised when you lose people at that level.
And it's interesting if you look at people like Comet, isn't it? Because actually, you'd have thought that in businesses like that, where it's the big ticket items generally, it's that much harder to make a sale when people are feeling less inclined to spend. Actually, you'd think you need more staff on the shop floor, wouldn't you? So,
yeah, you'd think so. But at Comet, it's I think the deputy store manager level where they're making the cuts. But again, it's unusual, especially in a company like that, which is making such a focus around service, and you do wonder whether it's going to be put in danger.
Well, yeah, that's right. I suppose it just shows how tough things have become. But there are some very positive signs of that retailers doing the right things as well, aren't they? I mean, we heard about Debenhams senior management not taking pay rises but giving pay rises to the shop floor staff. And when times are tough and people are hearing a lot of bad news, that's the sort of message retailers need to be sending out, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. That's really going to keep people on side, and that is so important at these sorts of times. It's the classic complaint, isn't it? Fat cat bosses making millions while the shop floor is being cut, while already quite low paid people are losing their jobs or having pay freezes. So I think Debenhams has done the right thing. The other thing about these potential job losses across the retail sector, I think it's very bad news in a wider way as well, because they're the sorts of companies that the ordinary person in the street really identifies with. So when those household names start losing jobs, ordinary consumers start feeling quite worried.
Exactly, that affects consumer confidence itself, doesn't it? And the other thing that was interesting was to see Charlie Mayfield and John Lewis saying we're not going to cut jobs. And actually, John Lewis already is probably well ahead of the pack on service, and so you wonder whether actually that's really going to keep the pressure on some of these retailers that are cutting jobs more. If John Lewis will look even better compared to his...
John Lewis is a bit unique because of its partnership structure, but I think the point you make is right. The other worrying thing about job losses like these are they're very high profile. The ordinary person in the street really understands shops. They spend a lot of time in them. So when they hear about job losses in stores, I think that's the sort of thing that makes people more worried about the economic outlook.
So you actually think it could damage consumer confidence further and actually worsen the predicament that retailers are in already?
I think so, yeah.
So, George, been a quiet period for announcements during August, but it's the start of the new term next week. Everyone's back from their holidays. The kids are back at school in their new £2.50 uniforms from Asda and Tesco. How do you feel the rest of the year is going to pan out? All the signs are it's going to be very difficult indeed, and a tough Christmas.
I hate to carry on in the depressing tone we've had to adopt the last year, but I think more of the same. And we should get a better sense of it in the next couple of weeks because, after the quiet time over the summer, we'll be getting a lot of company announcements in a lot of different retail sectors. So over the next couple of weeks, we've got DSG, an update from TGi, so we'll find out more about electricals, next interims in a couple of weeks' time, Morrison's interims as well. So within about a fortnight we will have the official version and we will have the verdicts and views of the retailers about where we're going.
Yeah, and it's hard to see, with the exception of Morrison's, any of the retailers you've just mentioned coming out with news that's going to put a smile on our faces.
No, I don't think so. I don't think they're going to set the world on fire.
I suppose the only thing we can hope is that maybe some of this goodwill that's been created by our Olympic success will put a bit more of a spring into everyone's step.
Yeah, it might do.
Drive people out to the shops again. That's the poll we're running on our website this week anyway. So,
yeah. Well, there's a couple of retailers who are supposed to already have had blips. I think people like JJB Sports, I think Argos has been going great guns apparently on sports equipment following the Olympics. So yeah, some good news for retailers as well as Britain.
Yeah, well, thanks George. So good news if you're selling swimming trunks, not so good if you're anyone else in retail, but let's hope there's some positive news around the corner. In the meantime, enjoy the weekend and we'll be back next week with the next TGi Friday.